Hello, friends. Welcome. This is Puleng Kosisili, otherwise known as the Mind Surgeon. I'm always excited and delighted to be a part of your life and legacy through this channel. I'm really grateful for all of you who are listening in from wherever you are. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so right now. Just click subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Let YouTube know that you want to be informed whenever we upload new content. And if you like these posts, don't just like them in your heart, like them. And lastly, remember to comment. I want you to comment and let me know what resonates with you, what inspires you, and what encourages you. What particular bit of content was an answer to your prayers or really spoke to where you are right now? I'm going to dive into something that I consider to be a critical success factor. I cannot overstate how important this piece is. I cannot overstate how much of a blessing it's been to me and to the many successful people I know of. It's a critical success factor that unfortunately goes understated and underrated, yet it is crucial in today's world. So I'm thrilled to have you here today as we dive deep into this fascinating topic. It is the concept of attention as a form of currency that purchases our thoughts and experiences. What does that mean? And how can it transform your life? Let's explore this together. Let me start with a personal story to give you some context for the concept. Some time back during the winter period, the extended family just came together to visit with each other, and someone brought us some oranges from their backyard garden. And as we sat around to enjoy them, somebody said, "Yeah, let's eat some oranges and prevent the flu." I remember I paused for a moment and then I responded, "Are you always thinking about sickness?" To which they replied, "I'm not thinking about getting sick. I'm thinking about preventing the sickness." This got me thinking about how many people share a similar belief. The belief that thinking about what we don't want is a good thing, or that thinking about what we don't want is the same as thinking about what we do want. But is it? Let's look more into this. This family member, let's call him Joe. Joe was eager to be proactive about our health, believing that by eating oranges we could fend off illness. So his focus was on preventing disease. And while this is a noble way of thinking about it, it is not the best way to use attention. Actually, let me say this first. Your attention will get for you the thing you are spending your attention on, in the same way that money will get for you what you are spending the money on. If you want to be educated, you spend money on books. If you want to be intoxicated, you spend money on alcohol, because money gets for you what you spend it on. In the same way, whatever you spend, waste, or invest your attention on, that's what you can expect to get. So you will become what you think of most of the time, because your life will veer in the direction of where you focus your attention. Okay, so I said that to say this. Focusing on what we don't want is a wasteful use of our attention. While it may seem like a positive approach, it actually involves a negative focus. We're going to unpack this. Let's talk about misguided beliefs. Many people think that by focusing on what they don't want, they are somehow safeguarding against it. But here's the twist. The mind doesn't know the difference between want and don't want. It simply gives us what we focus on, whether we want it or not. Let me give you a classic example. When I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant, what do you picture? What comes to your mind? Exactly, a pink elephant. That's the way the mind works. You get what you pay attention to. Even the Bible says, let the weak say I'm strong. It doesn't say, let the weak say I'm not weak. Why? Because they are not the same thing. And by the way, I'm not interpreting that verse. I'm simply applying it. They are not the same thing. So they don't get you the same results when you pay attention to them. One gets you weakness and the other gets you strength. Are you getting it? Let's take another example. You would think that saying, I don't want to be poor and I want to be rich have the same effect. Well, to your mind, they don't. Because your mind doesn't discriminate between wants and don't wants. All it hears in those two statements is rich and poor. And it will give you whichever of the two you are focused on, regardless of whether it's what you want or not. This is so crucial in our success endeavors because many of us think that it's enough to know what you don't want and stop there. But let me challenge you to take it a step further and determine what it is you do want and focus on that. Because your life will go in the direction of your dominant thoughts or the focus of your attention. To an unsuspecting person, the statements, I don't want to be poor and I want to be rich are the same thing. But to the mind, one puts attention on poverty and the other on riches, and therefore gets you one or the other, depending on where you are paying attention. Consider this. At some point in your life, you've probably heard somebody say, or you've said it yourself, pay attention. But have you really ever stopped to consider what that means? Attention is not just a passive act. It's an active investment. When you pay attention to something, you are essentially purchasing it in your life. Think about it. Whatever you focus on, you are paying for with your attention. You might not have realized it until today, but you are constantly buying into the experiences and circumstances that come from your thoughts and focus. This is important to understand because our lives are shaped by what we concentrate on. If your attention is predominantly on negative thoughts or past grievances, that's what you are inviting into your life. Conversely, if you direct your attention towards positive outcomes and aspirations, you are actively shaping a brighter future. And just like money, attention can be wasted or invested. When you start thinking of it like currency, you will be mindful of how you use it. For instance, if you spend your attention on worrying about things you don't want, such as failure, illness, or conflict, you are actually working on manifesting those fears. The law of attraction suggests that you will ultimately become what you think about most of the time. If your mind is fixated on troubles and challenges, your life will reflect those dominant thoughts. You'll find yourself stuck in cycles of troubles and challenges. It's important to recognize that attention is like a magnet. Whatever you focus on becomes more pronounced in your life. This is why it's essential to consciously choose what you direct your attention towards. The word is very clear. It tells you in Philippians 4:8 what you should focus your attention on. It says, pay attention to whatever is true and noble and right. Focus on whatever is pure and lovely and admirable. If it's excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. That is the word. And the word is a blueprint for success. So, what are you preoccupied with? What fills your mental space? This is a vital question because whatever you are preoccupied with is what you are purchasing, buying, paying for with your attention. Isn't it wise then to make a conscious choice to be preoccupied with your purpose, your passions, and your goals? By focusing on success, on joy, and the future you desire, instead of the past you don't want, you are directing your life toward those outcomes. When your preoccupation aligns with your aspirations, you begin to notice a shift. your life starts to swerve in the direction of your dominant thoughts, your focused attention. On the flip side, if you allow yourself to get bogged down by worries, fears, or past mistakes, you are essentially buying into a life of limitations. You've heard the saying, look where you're going. This holds profound truth. The reason you must look where you're going is that you will ultimately go where you're looking. Your attention shapes your path. If you focus on obstacles or past failures, you'll find it difficult to move forward. Your attention becomes a roadblock rather than a guiding light. Conversely, when you direct your focus towards your goals and your aspirations, you start paving the way for success. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or challenges. Instead, it's about shifting your perspective. Rather than obsessing over what you don't want, train yourself to concentrate on what you do want. This mental shift can be transformative. When you obsess over a problem, you're not just thinking about it. You're sending a command to your subconscious mind, instructing it to explore that issue further and bring it into your reality. This is why it's crucial to be intentional about your focus. Your subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between what you want and what you don't want. It simply acts on what you give it. So if you're constantly ruminating on fear or failure, that's what your life will reflect back to you. Instead, let's train our minds to command positivity and abundance. What if you started to visualize your goals? What if you gave your attention to possibilities rather than limitations? By doing so, you shift the narrative of your life toward the outcomes you desire. So how do you begin to redirect your attention? Let's get into some practical strategies you can implement to shift your mindset. By actively redirecting your attention, you're making a conscious choice to invest in a life you truly desire. The first thing is awareness. Start by noticing where your attention goes throughout the day. Are you focused on the negative you don't want or the positive you do want? Remember, the mind doesn't discriminate between wants and don't wants. You will get the negative or positive you are paying attention to. Secondly, reframe. When a negative thought about something you don't want pops up, that's fine, but don't just end there. Now that you know what you don't want, consciously reframe it to something positive you do want. Flip the switch on your focus. And lastly, practice gratitude. Spend a few minutes each day reflecting on what you're thankful for. The simple act can redirect your attention from the negative you don't want to what you do want. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that changing your attention from focusing on the negatives you don't want to the positives you do want doesn't come naturally for most people, simply because you have practiced the former way of thinking and speaking, and you become good at what you practice. But this is good news because it tells us that we can become good at shifting our attention if we practice it long enough. We have practiced being anti-this and anti-that, anti-violence, for example. But what if we started practicing being pro-peace? You don't solve violence by perpetually shining the light on violence. Rather, shine the light on men and women who are peaceful and respectful. Shine the light not on dysfunction, but on functional families, functional relationships, healthy environments. Give the mind something good to focus on. Actually, I'm reminded of something Mother Teresa once said. She said something to the effect that she wouldn't be a part of an anti-war rally. But if you have a pro-peace rally, then invite her and she would come. And someone may be listening to this and say, well, what's the difference? I'm guessing that someone isn't you, because we spent all of today's workout talking about this very thing. The difference is that one puts your attention on war and the other puts your attention on peace. and you get what you pay attention to, whether it's what you want or not. So Mother Teresa was onto something. We dedicate an entire month to raising awareness to a particular disease. What if we changed this approach and dedicated a month to the awareness of our body's natural abilities to stay healthy? Would it make more of a positive difference in the health dispositions of our communities? I bet it would. They'll have health in their minds, not diseases. And whatever has your mind has you. So I encourage you to consciously redirect your attention each day until it becomes a habit, because you get what you give your attention to. In conclusion, remember that your attention is a powerful currency. It can either enrich your life or drain it, depending on where you choose to spend it. Because the things you give your attention to will grow and manifest in your life, whether they're positive or negative, regardless of whether or not you want them. Take some time this week to reflect on what you are preoccupied with and consider how you can shift your focus towards the outcomes you desire. Instead of eating oranges to prevent illness, eat oranges to maintain good health. There is a difference. And now that you know the difference, go out and be the difference that makes a difference. Thank you for joining us for today's mind workout session. Until the next one, remember to treat your mindset like your life depends on it, because it does.